Though Zaniev pled not guilty, the trial began March 4th with defense lawyer Judy Clark's blunt admission that Zaniev and his older brother, each armed with a pressure cooker bomb concealed in a backpack, carried out devastating April 15, 2013 attack. Now, you see, when you go into trial and say, yeah, it was me, but there was someone else who also did it, that's the kind of defense that a third grader uses. Yeah, I mean, I did it, Mom, but so did the other kids. And guess what? It didn't work in third grade, and it's certainly not going to work in a federal court. Okay.
Well, no, and also this notion of paradise and martyrdom is the huge variable among jihadists.
Yeah.
It's the willingness, it's the eagerness to die, to get and to not only get into paradise yourself, but to get everyone you care about in after you, to get past that velvet rope in the sky. That is at the center of this death cult behavior.
So even if I were to grant you that, then we go to the issue of Christianity, which has all of the barbaric stuff that's in the Old Testament, right? And then, of course, conveniently, Christians will cherry pick and say, well, we don't agree with that part of the Old Testament, but we love Genesis, right? So it has all that barbaric stuff. It's in the Bible. And then in the latter verses, it says, oh, by the way, God is going to come back and kill you all, okay? First, you have the messianic situation. If you have the worst of all worlds, you have to convert everybody, okay? And if you don't convert everybody, God will kill you all, right? So, and you should look forward to that because your beloved Lord is going to come and vacuum you into the sky. Yeah. So if anyone is the most dangerous, doesn't it make sense that it is the people looking forward to Armageddon where we all die? Well, and by the way, actively try to make that happen.
Okay. So again, the crucial point here is to recognize that specific beliefs have specific consequences insofar as they're really believed. And that's all I'm ever talking about.
When we talk about the difference between Islam and Christianity,
let's talk about it.
Okay,
so there are circumstances where it's worse.
You frame, in so much of your writing, you frame Islam as it appears irredeemable. Whereas Christianity is just as violent and perhaps more dangerous because they look forward to and want to execute Armageddon, right? And have tried in the past and are also currently trying.
You're being too loose with Christianity. Christianity is not just as violent. Christianity has a history of extraordinary violence, right?
By far, historically, the most violent religion on the planet.
Well, that I don't know what you're lumping into the Christian bin there, but that's debatable. But let's just talk about the centuries of...
Muslims didn't start the 2 world wars. Muslims didn't do the Holocaust. Muslims didn't do the Inquisition. They didn't do the Crusades.
Because of Christianity. The world wars were not because of Christianity.
That's complicated. When Christians do it, it's complicated. When Muslims do it, it's not complicated. It's because of Islam.
No. Okay.
But then you're saying when Buddhists do it,
wait, hold on.
When certain Buddhists do it, I'm not going to blame all Buddhists because it is not connected to their doctrine. But when Muslims do it, it's not complicated. It is because of their doctrine, and hence we can talk generally and loosely about Muslims.
No, I am not talking generally and loosely about Muslims. And if you catch me doing it, then we just have to go into the details. So all I'm asking for, and I will concede that because I've gotten so much opposition on this point that occasionally I'm pretty strident in how I ask for this, all I'm asking for is honest conversation about the logical connection between ideas and behavior.
So then let's go back to the idea of Christians versus Muslims, because I hope we're in the midst of that honest conversation. Yeah. So Christians, and I'm not saying you do it, and I'm curious what your take on this is, but I hear all the time from defenders of Christianity and from other atheists, but who happen to be born Christian, because we all get wedded to our identities and secretly want to defend it no matter how much we're atheists or agnostics. Mm-hmm. So they say, well, Hitler doesn't count because he wasn't really Christian, right? Except not only do we have the famous story of Gott mit uns on all the Bible on their belts that says God is with us, but Hitler literally said, I am doing the Lord's work, and that is why I am getting rid of the Jews. Right. So why, but that doesn't count. Okay, well, no, so then I would ask you this, because you actually specifically talk about when Muslims say that they're doing it for Allah, why don't we believe them? We should take them at their word. So shouldn't we take Hitler at his word that he is doing the Lord's work on behalf of Christianity?
One very important piece here is the example of Muhammad and the example of Jesus. Muhammad was not a hippie who got crucified. Right? Muhammad was a conquering warlord. Muhammad's ethics, his life course, has much more in common with Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan than it does with Jesus or with Buddha or with Mahavira or other progenitors of the world's, quote, great faiths.
Yeah, but Jesus wanted to conquer the world. He just sucked at it.
No, well, that's one way to say it. But he was not ordering people's heads cut off. He got
didn't
crucified.
Have the power to.
Well, no, that's you're reading that into the situation. But I'm saying the ethic you get out of Jesus. The Sermon on the Mount doesn't give you, okay, let's cut the heads off of those 300 Jews and let's take sex slaves.
That's
right?
If you want to cherry pick the good parts of the Bible, there are plenty.
Yeah, but
there are plenty.
But the bad parts are not as extensive. It's much easier to cherry pick the good parts.
No, we just talked about how the bad parts are extensive, if not worse.
The Quran is a much shorter, much more streamlined book, and it is it has a central message, which is very much in harmony with the example of Muhammad. It is not the central message of the Quran, arguably, certainly a central message, is you should spread this one true faith to the ends of the earth, and you spread this by conquest, not conversation. It is convert or die.
Christians want to convert them too, and if they don't convert them, it doesn't matter because they're all going to get blasted by God at the end.
Okay, but that you know to be a fiction, and that's very different than waging war in this life against these people. Okay, the Yazidis are not being killed by the Iraqi Christians. Right, and there's a reason for that.
But then when you get into the real world, Sam, instead of the hypothetical world of the doctrines, right? Again, in the real world, there's two things that are very important that happen. One, historically, Christians have cherry-picked the good parts at times, Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, etc., and they have picked hideous parts of the Bible for slavery, the Inquisition, the Holocaust, the anti-Semitism, and the list goes on and on and on. So historically, I mean, on Holocaust alone, let alone everything else I've mentioned here, Christians win. They have been the most violent.
Okay, but where are the Christian suicide bombers? Where are the Christians cutting the heads off of Yazidis? Where's this death cult behavior among Christians?
So gas chambers don't count? You have to physically cut somebody's head off?
No, but here's a science experiment. In this same year, you have people living in the same kinds of conditions, right? I mean, the Christian Palestinians have to go through the same checkpoints as Muslim Palestinians, right, in Israel.
Well, I have an answer to that.
Okay, what is the answer?
Okay, so it's not specifically in Palestine, but in Northern Ireland, what did they do when they felt they were oppressed and they were occupied? They bombed civilians, right? What did the Tamils do in Sri Lanka? They bombed civilians. When they felt that they were oppressed and occupied, they always bombed civilians.
No, I can talk, no, but they don't always, because we are not seeing the Christian suicide bombers. Right, so we can talk about Ireland.
Okay, but hold on. If you're being incredibly specific on suicide bombers, okay, we had Buddhist suicide bombers, kamikaze fighters.
Okay,
so
not profiling Muslims, not profiling Middle Eastern people, or not racial profiling, but acknowledging that we know what we're looking for. We're looking for jihadists. We're looking for people who have a certain construal of Islam and are willing to die and want to die this way, and then we have to look. The filter has to be: do these people stand a chance of being jihadists? Now, again, it's possible they could recruit, Okinawan women someday, and then we have the problem of, wow, they beat our profile. They could recruit, blonde octogenarians from Norway, right? But the basic fact is, we know that that's much harder to do. They're not doing it, and again, someone like me falls squarely in the profile. I don't get the short line in this situation.
I understand. So, and in the Norwegian example you keep bringing up, okay, Norwegians don't bomb airplanes, but if you apply that across the board and said, okay, well, we can check Norwegians less in security matters, well, you would have let Breivik slide by, and he is one of the biggest mass killers we've had in recent memory, right? So it turns out anybody could be a mass killer.
I'm talking about Hamas, the democratically elected government in Gaza, right? So there are many, many Palestinians who agree with Hamas, clearly. Right. Hamas, the state, in the charter of Hamas, genocide is explicit, right?
But Sam,
and we
you're saying if you ask the Irish terrorist, no, I'm going to tell you why. Look, if you ask an Irish terrorist in the middle of the Northern Ireland fight, would you
No.
kill them all? He would say, yes, I would. Yes, I would. I'd kill them all.
That's purely plucked out of your imagination.
No, but
Yeah.
Sam, everybody fighting under those circumstances says, I'm going to kill them all. But when the
It's not
Muslims were in
true.
charge, Now, you see, when you go into trial and say, yeah, it was me, but there was someone else who also did it, that's the kind of defense that a third grader uses. Yeah, I mean, I did it, Mom, but so did the other kids. And guess what? It didn't work in third grade, and it's certainly not going to work in a federal court.
Yeah!